Hello everyone, welcome to Celestine Expressive Healing Arts. I'm Cecilia Inez here to do this final full moon in Sagittarius reading. The final reading for May. This reading, I was guided to just use tarot cards. At the end, I'll flip these cards. These are the oracle cards that I pulled for like an overarching meaning to add to the reading. Being that this full moon is in Sagittarius, it makes sense to talk a little bit about the sign and some of its qualities, because that's what we're going to be working with for this full moon, which is happening on May 31st, so the last day of May as we enter June. So Sagittarius represents the pursuit of knowledge, freedom, higher truth. It's symbolized by the archer, right? Depicted as a centaur. So right, it's like a mythical creature, half man, half human, half horse. And this figure embodies the duality of humanity, right? Where the horse represents our raw instinct, our animal instincts, the physical movement, the life force that we have within us that's moving through us, while a human torso represents consciousness, ethics, intellectual vision. It's right. It's what grounds us to this reality, 3D reality. The explorers. These are some of the archetypes. The explorer, the philosopher, the truth seeker. I don't know why I never made the connection between Sagittarius and the wounded healer. The story, the myth of Chiron, who was a centaur, and who went through his own pain, and because of that learned to be like this amazing healer for others. And so this goes perfectly with this death and rebirth card, because we have been traveling through the shadows, right, through the underworld, the shadows that live in our own psyche, right, and because shadows is connected to our unconscious. So having to excavate and go into these, seedy, dark realms of our psyche in order to befriend these exiled parts of us that have been in hiding, that we kind of repressed or suppressed out of survival, out of fear, out of love, like wanting love and belonging. So it's the hero story. We're saving ourselves, right? We're going back into these scary, unknown, dark places where we meet ourselves, really. We meet ourselves, and then we're rebirthed into this true version of ourselves. And so that's what we have here. And so this, I mean, you can see the Sagittarius qualities or the energy running through this reading, because we are, truth seekers. We are seeking the truth in our personal lives, and wanting to get to the bottom of things, wanting to really, change and shift our lives, the quality of our lives, the qualities of our relationships. And so I love that this is where it's starting, right here, where we left off in the other readings. I feel, right, it's like this constant progression of evolution, and these small transitions and steps that we're taking. And because I was looking back at the readings that I did for this month, the monthly reading, then we had the full moon in Scorpio, and then the new moon in Taurus. And so we started out with the monthly reading with the theme of rebirthing our true selves, right? So we were just talking about that. But first, to do that, we had to let go of something old, right? Let go of an old relationship, an old way of thinking, of behaving, of old beliefs, values that no longer serve us. And so having to let go of that, and then because we pulled the Hierophant, which symbolized that, like the old structures that had to come down, be dismantled, the internal structures, right? The beliefs, the mindsets, the conditioning. And then we also pulled the Phoenix, which is all about resurrection, is all about transformation. But in order to be reborn, something has to die, right? Something within us has to die. Transmute that pain into wisdom, into power, into self-empowerment. And then for the full moon in Scorpio, that gave us the opportunity again to travel down into the underworld, into our psyche, to find the lurking shadows in order to befriend them, in order to integrate them into our consciousness. Because then we pulled the Venom card and Three of Swords. Because Three of Swords is like heartbreak and betrayal and grief and loss and that kind of stuff. And Venom is poison, right? The poison that we need to transmute into medicine. And so that was kind of the theme of the Scorpio full moon. Breaking toxic habits, breaking this toxic cycle, and then deep purge, right? Deep purge, deep releasing. And then with the new moon in Taurus, that was the healing, right? The post, like, coming out of the underworld and like tending to ourselves and our hearts and our healing, a more gentle, kind of more earthy, gentle energy, opening us up with the World card that we got, which was all about this karmic cycle and finally ending and us moving into this new cycle. The Eight of Cups, of us choosing change, you know, and letting go of all the things that do not serve us anymore. And then we got the Fool card, which was like, again, starting new beginnings, starting a new fresh journey, getting on a new journey, a new adventure, which is leading us to this again. So this is the recent past, right? So here we are, right? That's kind of reiterating the story that went before. And now we're going into go with the flow and Two of Cups. And this is crazy. We have One of Cups. This is Ace of Cups and then Two of Cups. So from death to rebirth to this Ace of Cups, which is representative of this new beginning. And then Two of Cups, which is an expansion of this cup into union, into partnership, into some sort of expanded reality. And then the rest of it is just so amazing. Then we have, in the current present moment, we have 3 Queen cards, which is extraordinary. We have receptivity, which is the Queen of Cups. We have Queen of Wands, and then we have Queen of Swords. So we have some water, which pertains to our emotions. We have fire, which is more like, you know, action-oriented, dynamic action movement. And then we have the Queen of Swords, which is all about mental energy, right? So planning and organizing and looking ahead. This is all definitely has a lot of leadership energy, because then you also have the King of Pentacles here, which balances this out. And then we have another Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups, which is again kind of mirroring this Two of Cups with these two birds here. But this is definitely fulfillment. It's abundance, prosperity. All of this is like success, prosperity, like things, again, this slow expansion into more possibilities. More possibilities. I'm so tempted to flip these cards. I kind of want to flip them now. Let's flip them now. And then I'll start the reading. Wind. I think wind is change. And Yarrow. Interesting. Okay. There's still like this tension. There's this tension, even though things are opening up now for us. And also we have to consider that full moons are the cosmic high tide of the lunar cycle, right? Representing this peak energy. And like something is being illuminated, and there's something being completed and closed off here. Of course, with the Death and Rebirth card, that's perfect. You have to also think that for this full moon, it's going to be opposed, meaning that's going to create tension, right? They're opposed to each other. They're not in harmony, really. with Uranus that is now in Gemini, and that's creating some tension because the planet of Uranus represents radical change, disruption, sudden awakenings. And so when it's opposing the full moon, this can bring, which is not a bad thing, it can bring breakthroughs. So maybe getting a breakthrough, some sort of big idea, this big insight about something that maybe you were confused about or kind of, needed to make a decision on or something like that. Unexpected news. So something, and again, it doesn't have to be bad news. It could be really great news, unexpected news about something. And then this rapid paradigm shift, this rapid shift in perception. Because even if you see here, I feel like that represents this like opening of the third eye almost, right? So like somehow our perception around something is going to open up and we're going to be able to see things clearly or receive the answers we've been seeking. So just remember that there still is some tension there, even though things are starting kind of to align and open up for us. Ace of Cups. So going with the flow, I like the interpretation of this Ace of Cups in this deck. This is the Osho deck. Because it's kind of indicating what we need to do right now, right? To trust, to surrender. And that's what death could represent too, right? Death is just like surrendering, like just stop holding on to things that are just not working, that don't work anymore, that have reached their completion, that have reached their fulfillment. And trust that there's something greater operating through us, within our lives. And then another thing I wanted to say before I move on to going with the flow is that the death card, this is the only major arcana card that we actually pulled for the spread. And what major arcana cards are, there's only 22 major arcana cards in the tarot deck. They are the heavy hitters. They signify something that's really long term. It's an influence that's going to be with us for a long time. An energy that's going to be with us for a long time. And it's a significant like emotional, spiritual shift of perspective. It's usually tied to karmic lessons. And again, a significant life event, right? This awakening, this shift that we're going through. And so trusting that, right? Trusting that, once you let go and you shed the past, you allow yourself to let go of some of these toxic habits, major life transitions will start opening up and aligning for us if we just go with the flow, right? Don't force things. Don't try to control every single aspect of whatever you're working on now in your life. Or in a major life transition, starting fresh, it's an invitation to let go of what no longer serves us, which is going with the flow. Aces themselves represent new beginnings, raw potential, trusting in how things unfold, whatever shows up too, like just staying open. Because if you see the figure here, the figure's very relaxed, right? Very relaxed, very trusting, not forcing things, not making extreme efforts to, over function and over everything has to be perfect. And, it's just like, no, just like relaxing into it, enjoying the ride. And this card goes hand in hand with this receptivity card perfectly. They complement each other because it's also like being open and just completely open. Just like this figure too. So there is this opening up to possibilities and to other things, and letting go of our expectations. Two of Cups is beautiful, and this is the progression is amazing, from rebirth to new beginnings to this union. This can signify union, partnership, or maybe an internal union, right? Integration of these dual aspects of ourselves, these opposite parts of ourselves. It represents like things multiplying, From death to rebirth to the Ace of Cups, embarking onto this new beginning, and then to the Two of Cups, which is all about joining forces, connection, union or uniting in partnerships, finding harmony within ourselves, finding balance in our own lives. It's beautiful. And I'm going to read these last two cards at the end, but even the wind card goes with going with the flow, because the wind represents breath work. So breath work, when you think about taking a breath, right? Again, it's about, or if you think about what breath work is done for, it is done for relaxation, for mindfulness, for, right? It's a more meditative practice, for embodiment, right? It's somatic. So there's something around that, right? Just getting into our bodies, trusting the moment, trusting how things are unfolding, trusting what shows up for us, trusting in ourselves, trusting our own instincts, our own intuition, trusting in life. Because even this has like a go with the flow, right? You have the clouds floating by. There's this expansiveness with the bird flying, and then this figure is mirroring the whole universe. The whole cosmos is embodied within each of us. But we got all queen cards for this present position. We have receptivity, which is the Queen of Cups, Queen of Wands, and Queen of Swords. All queen cards. And so we have the element of water, which pertains to emotions, fire, which pertains to actions, and then air, which is all about the mind and thinking. Our thoughts, our thinking, our mindset. I believe and feel that this is really encouraging us to embody these archetypes qualities, right? Merge all of, because they're all very distinct. They all possess different strengths and weaknesses and things like that. So combining them all together really. And then we also have the King of Pentacles here, which kind of balances all this out. This is the only Pentacle card that we got for this spread. Yeah. I feel like it's rounding off all of these. And we have all the elements here. So we're supposed to combine them together right now. It mimics the meaning of the Two of Cups. Two of Cups, remember we were saying it represents balance and harmony. And so there's something around us taking all these different qualities and combining them and finding some sort of balance and harmony within all these distinct energies and elements. I don't know. So let's see. Let's break them down then. So Queen of Cups. Let's start with that. Queen of Cups tunes into emotions, intuition, is very empathetic. So those are some of the qualities that we're encouraged to like develop and like to integrate into our consciousness, into our actions, into our being. Queen of Cups is often asked for emotional honesty and self-care. So something around also being able to be emotionally honest, maybe in a very compassionate way, right? In a very gentle, compassionate way, but yet honest. And then there's also a quality about self-care. So the Queen of Cups knows how to take care of herself, right? How to love on herself, just as she loves on to others. So that's definitely a part of the Queen of Cups. Then you have the Queen of Wands, is very confident. Look at, you see the figure here, very confident in who she is. She's there with her wand, with her beautiful bright sunflower. Sunflowers too, right? Very bright, showy flowers, and big and bright and bold. They're not afraid to shine. So there's something around stepping into our confidence It's creative energy. You have a lot of yellow here too. So that's, you know, creative fire, creative energy. Her dress is orange. There's something around being seen, not afraid of visibility and being seen. There's definitely, as I was saying, leadership energy in this. All of these figures are all leaders in their own right. So the Queen of Wands is bold, she's warm, she's self-possessed. Like when she makes a decision and takes an action to do something, it's like she's determined to get it done. And then you have the lion as a symbol here too. So the lion is courageous, right? Strong, there's strength, there's courage. And it always reminds me of the Wizard of Oz, because the whole idea of the lion in the Wizard of Oz is that the lion was looking for courage for his heart, but all along it had a heart. You know, throughout the journey, there were so many different instances that proved the lion had a heart. I have the Queen of Swords, which is very different vibe altogether from these two. Like this is like this. She don't fuck around. She has a sword in her hand, you know, but she's not using it. She has it to her side, but if she needs to use it, she'll use it. So, but the sword represents, it's not violence. It's like mental agility. It's more about like the strategic energy of like critical thinking and using your intelligence and your form of communication in that kind of way. So it's, you know, the sword is a metaphor for your mind, you know, mental sharpness, mental clarity. It's also about setting boundaries. Tell the truth. So it's about speaking the truth, thinking clearly, as I was saying, mental clarity, utilizing discernment over confusion. And if you see the card, you see, yeah, you have the bird up in the sky. So again, being able to see the bigger picture. She's looking ahead. Nothing's distracting her. She's like looking into the waters, reading the water, right? That's the discernment. There's no confusion in which direction she's going. She's like, okay, she's figuring things out. She's, you know, using her mind. She's planning. She's strategizing. And then she's going to act. So together, these all suggest that the present situation, whatever present situation we're working through in our lives, really requires us to feel deeply. That's what this is, right? And to receive, to be receptive, to feel deeply, to act boldly. That's the Queen of Wands. And then to communicate clearly, to think clearly so that we can communicate our needs and wants and choices clearly without losing any of these parts, right? Without not any given part overpowering the other. They're working together, right? There's this integration, there's this working together, there's this like merging of all these qualities. So being able to be fluid with it, you know, and access it at any given moment in time, without one taking over the other, and having this fluid access to all these beautiful qualities that we do, that live within us. One question that we could really ask ourselves, if you want to do some journaling, is where am I being too emotional, right? Too emotional, maybe too forceful, or too detached? Because those are the shadow aspects of all of them, right? Like if you're depending too much on your mind and always just, you could start overthinking things and you know, analyzing things and kind of getting in your own way, and also becoming very detached from your receptivity and your emotional self, right? If you're always just in your mind, right, and always perceiving things through your mind. You also have to integrate the heart and your emotions and your intuition, right? Other ways of knowing. And then same thing with the wand, where you can become too forceful right? Great, you're confident, you're assertive, but then it's like, are you trying to control everything or use your power in a corrupt way that's like where you're trying to now overpower others? You know, it becomes like this competitive energy instead of collaborative and working together. So those are good things to like maybe you know, take some time and journal about that and see if there's something that's out of balance right now when it comes to these qualities. And then another question that I was thinking about was which queen, like, right, which one is more prominent in your life? Which one feels the strongest in you right now, since we're talking about the present moment? And then maybe you can work from there, right? Work from your strengths, right? So if you're naturally a very empathetic, highly sensitive person and always kind of, you know, which is wonderful, and that's what's strong for you right now, it's like then you can start thinking about how you can integrate more of these qualities, right? Maybe you're more soft-spoken, so how can I start, you know, taking up more space and sharing more of my ideas and my thoughts, and or maybe I need to change something about my style of communication and how I communicate to others, and you know, and then the Queen of Wands is about taking more leadership, right? Maybe it's about putting yourself out there more, asserting yourself more, taking more responsibility, taking on more responsibility and more of these leadership roles. Or maybe you just in your own life, being a leader in your own life, right? Setting, you have goals and things you're setting for yourself, promises that you've made, and it's like, I'm gonna take ownership and leadership of this, you know, of my life, and direct it in the way that I want to, you know, by my choices, by my actions, by my rituals and habits and all those different things, and how I live my life. I think I'm good with this. Let's see what else. I guess one last thing I want to mention is that this receptivity card is a little different than the Queen of Cups in traditional tarot, and I like the Osho deck because it expands the meanings of these universal symbols or archetypes. And so I like the idea of receptivity because, again, it goes with this going with the flow card about just staying open to something greater, keeping our hearts open, keeping our minds open. And a lot of that connects to also living with gratitude for what you have now in your life, and gratitude for whatever shows up in your life. And right, we were talking about that, and letting go of demands, letting go of expectations, not forcing our will on others, on things, on life, kind of getting out of our own way, not swimming upstream and making life harder for ourselves, but just like going with the flow. So learning to trust in life again and trusting in ourselves. Near future, we start with this beautiful, this is technically the wish card. It's a wish card, like our wishes coming true. And it's a beautiful progression, as I said, right? We have the Two of Cups, and then it's kind of repeated here with the two birds. But now the cups have multiplied, right? The cups have multiplied. So it's symbolizing, right, this abundance, this expansion, this prosperity that is possible right now for us. So miracles do happen. Wishes do come true. So it's like, open your heart to the gifts that are coming your way, right? Believe, again, receptivity. Open yourself up to believing that, you know, things can get better. Things can definitely work out for us this time around. Believing in our talents and our skills and our dreams. Believing in others too. Maybe for a long time, again, because of things that happened in the past. We had maybe trust issues, or we kind of closed ourselves off, and you know, after getting our hearts broken, because we did get the Three of Swords. for the new moon, I think. So it's like after this heartbreak, after this loss, believing in love again, believing in ourselves, you know, regaining this optimistic like feeling, because the Queen of Wands is all about, I mean, look at the card. It's just like pure joy, optimism. And so believing in that again, opening ourselves up to that again. So maybe, yeah, we've been working on allowing ourselves to feel safe in this new feeling of joy and expansion, because it's scary, right? If you've been conditioned to always expect the worst and always being in pain and always being betrayed or abandoned, and your body, right? The body keeps the score. So your body almost gets also conditioned to these fight or flight responses, or fawn or freeze. And so we learn to just operate within these limited, you know, this limited range of experiences, right? Because we keep repeating sometimes the same things within relationships, within dynamics, within our lives. It takes time still to learn what safety feels within our bodies. It's safe to take up space. It's safe to feel joy, to feel excited, and to feel hope again, you know? And so that, I feel like that's what this line is kind of pointing to, us getting to this place of allowing this expansion in a very embodied way, right? In a very embodied, grounded way within our, like we could feel it and sense it and trust it. And we're learning how that feels in our bodies, envisioning, right? We're envisioning getting what we desire and letting it move through us. How does that feel, right? What does that feel like? You are safe to be seen. You are safe to take up space, to allow yourself to feel happiness. Like we're also connecting to that divine life force within us. That's what this rebirth is about, this receptivity is about, this Two of Cups, this integrating of all these like queen, this divine feminine energy, which is balanced here with the King of Pentacles. This outward pushing energy versus feminine energy that generally is more internal. But again, not to say that these queens don't possess this leadership quality, because they do, but it's different. It's distinct, right? Just like each of these queens are distinct, the king also possesses a different quality of leadership. And then you have to consider that it's a pentacle. So you have Queen, Wands, Swords, and then you have, look, it kind of rounds it all up. And then you got the pentacle, which is Earth. So Earth has to do with making things more tangible. So yes, being sensitive and having these beautiful internal experiences and dreams and daydreaming and being very intuitive, but then also taking action and being bold, right? And you know, not being afraid of putting it out there and then communicating it and thinking about it and developing it more. And then the king, I think, is like the final step where then we like, boom, you know, we make it happen, we manifest it. Two of Wands, we got Two of Cups and Two of Wands. So we got two showing up, the number 2 showing up twice, which again, it's about balance and harmony. This card is of expansion and opening up to new adventures. Again, this card connects so well with the Sagittarius energy, but definitely something, it's like indicating an activation within us and within our lives. Because that's the interesting thing too, that Sagittarius is a seeker, truth seeker, right? An explorer. But I feel like the exploring that has to get done now is more internal. It has been internal. And then we got all these queen cards, which is all about internal power. It's more about internal power. All right, let's move on to the last 2 cards. I like the song. So So let's start with the wind card. I feel the wind card goes with this going with the flow, with this receptivity card. These all definitely go together. So we're going to feel this tug, right? This internal tug, this restless energy that's going to be tugging at our, our spirit. We want to be free. We want to explore. We want to, urging us to get out of our comfort zone, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing, right? We're tired of maybe the same routine, the same little confined life that we've been living. And, there's something, maybe the confined way we've been thinking. We're wanting more. We're wanting expansion, for ourselves. And so that's good. The thing is that this restless energy can maybe make us act impulsively or rashly. So the wind, I feel, comes with that. The wind connects us to this flow state, to this going with the flow. Because this represents breath work. So it's something around, just taking a fucking break, a breath. It says here, just as a strong breeze clears the air, breathing with intention helps process emotions, release stuck energy, cleanse blood, reinforce the soul's stabilization into within the body, and tune into a more conscious way of perceiving the world. So it's that. I think this is telling us, it makes me think of also the birthing process. There's a lot of breathing, right? They teach the women these special ways of breathing, right, when they're getting the contractions and they're going through the birthing process. And I don't know why I was thinking of that metaphorically, right? We're giving birth to something new, to ourselves, and it's like we have to connect to our breath and our bodies and our life force to release, to birth this something new. And we have to trust the process and trust our own bodies, right? Trust our own bodies. It says here, harness the power of your breath, your intention to connect with this powerful force, which is bringing transformation, right? This is a transformation that we're unbalanced. It says unconsciously holding the breath, blocked emotions and numbness. So we don't want to block emotions, right? We want to go with the flow. We want to stay open to our emotions, right? And receive whatever insights, whatever resources, whatever help we need, whatever support we need. Bringing awareness, because that's what the breath is too. Breath means awareness. So we want to be fully aware now. That connects also to the Queen of Swords because, right, clarity of mind, clearing. The breath clears our mind, clears our, right, stagnant energy. Keeping the channels open, flowing, healthy, in balance, right? Balance. So there's a spider web, which I find interesting. Something about webbing something together, mending something, mending something. There's hands mend too. It says here, Yarrow allows us to be ourselves, guarding us from feeling too much of what is outside of ourselves or out of our control. For those whose role in their community requires that they often hold space for the wounds and vulnerabilities of others, Yarrow allows them to go deeper into this work of healing without being taxed and depleted from those exchanges. Maybe as we open up, right, as we start embodying more of this receptivity, we could be too porous, right? We could be too open, and that can impact us. That's what happens with empaths, right? People who are highly sensitive, they start taking on other people's emotions and energies and don't know how to let that kind of channel through them, flow through them. And it almost gets attached to their own energy body. And so the Yarrow is about that. It's about, like, if you're someone who is easily impacted by your environment, by energy, by other people's emotions, maybe that's the guidance we're getting here. It's like the solution is not to close yourself off completely then, right? Oh no, I can't be around others. You want to just be of service at a grander scale, and it's very challenging for you. It's like maybe it's like having some level of protection. Because as I was saying, all these cards seem pretty, they're not guarded, right? They're not like guarded behind anything, or like they don't have any armor or any protective gear or anything like that, but they do look protected energetically, like they know what they need. They're utilizing their discernment. They have self-knowledge and self-awareness, and they know what they need to do, what practices and tools they need to do in order to protect their energy, right? Protect themselves, their well-being. And so maybe that's what the Yarrow plant medicine is kind of guiding us to. Yarrow can let us go further without the fear of going too far. The fear of losing ourselves can cause such caution that we end up with self-limiting beliefs and actions, right? We were just saying that. So Yarrow can lead us to the edge of our limitations and even beyond. And what is this, right? Possibilities. We're going beyond this horizon. We're not afraid of going beyond these mountains, beyond there, walking towards them and going beyond them. And even this is also like we're going beyond, to reach a higher consciousness, a higher level of knowing, of awareness. Yarrow is also a renowned wound healer. Were we talking about Chiron at the beginning? Sagittarius, right? Chiron is a representative of the Sagittarius sign, who's the wounded healer. It stitches our bleeding parts. I guess that's what the web is symbolizing, right? As I was saying, weaving something together. It stitches the bleeding parts inside and out. It fights infection. Oh, Yarrow fights infection too. Tightens tissue, regenerates. Allow yourself to become the green lace, elegantly woven together. Allow yourself to be porous while knowing that you are discerning and filtering and safe. We were talking about that, right? Feeling safe, learning to feel safe in your own power, that it's okay to feel confident in yourself, to feel good and to move with that level of self-love. You're not taking anything away from anyone else. So letting go of this, of having to control how other people perceive us or how they receive us, or, how they interpret us as people, our choices, our actions. I felt that way where I felt like I feared conflict. I feared pissing people off. I felt I didn't want other people to feel threatened or any kind of negative emotion. And I'm like, but that's not my responsibility. That's not anyone's responsibility, right? You could only be responsible for yourself and for your own actions and reactions and emotions. And even then, that's really challenging to do for you, right? We always have to practice awareness, and that's what we're all working on. We're all working on our own consciousness, letting go of caring so much of how other people perceive us. Because that could be part of the letting go right here, going with the flow, and this, and maybe these individuals, these archetypes, these figures are also showing us that too. Confidence is just like being okay with who you are, like allowing yourself to just be yourself, being in your natural state without having to be performative, without having to like meet other people's expectations, or having to feel you have to be a certain way to be loved or accepted or belong or any of that. And through that, I think you get connected to the right people, right? To the right spaces and communities and opportunities. All right, I'm going to leave it at that, folks. Thank you for being here with me. Please like, share, subscribe. Check out my website and all my beautiful offerings. Take care, folks.